Prologue, a new century, a new power, 1900 to 1918.
The Great Depression struck.
The dawn of the 20th century did not come quietly.
Even as banks
Steamships cut through the mist of the Atlantic, cities roared with factories, and across oceans, nations braced for change. America had risen from colonies to independence, from independence to unity, and now unity demanded purpose. The people worked, dreamed, and built, but the world beyond their shores was burning. When the Great War engulfed Europe in 1914, the United States stood watching, waiting. Isolation was safety, until the war knocked on freedom's door. In 1917, America marched into the fire. From the wheat fields of Kansas to the harbors of New York, men left behind farms, factories, and families, answering the call of duty across the ocean. The trenches of France became their crucible. Mud, blood, gas, and fear surrounded them, but through the chaos rose courage, and with courage, the identity of a modern soldier. When the guns fell silent in 1918, America was no longer just a young nation. It had become a power, a voice the world could no longer ignore. Chapter 1, The Storms Between Wars, 1919 to 1941. The Roaring Twenties arrived, a decade of rhythm, wealth, and restless ambition. But behind the lights of New York, shadows lengthened. The Great Depression struck like a storm, and once again, hope became a battlefield. Even as banks collapsed and breadlines stretched for miles, the spirit of America endured, restless, resilient, unbroken. Across the ocean, darker forces were rising. Flags of tyranny unfurled, and the echoes of another war grew louder. President Roosevelt called upon his nation, "We must be the arsenal of democracy." Factories that once built cars now forged tanks and planes. Boys who once dreamed of baseball now trained for battle. And on a quiet Sunday morning in 1941, Pearl Harbor burned. In that smoke and fire, America's slumber ended. A generation awakened to its destiny. Chapter 2, World War II, The Crucible of Freedom, 1941 to 1945. They crossed oceans not for conquest but for conviction. From the beaches of Normandy to the islands of the Pacific, American soldiers faced the face of evil and refused to bow. Names like Omaha, Midway, Iwo Jima, and Bastogne became eternal. In the skies, pilots danced with death. On the ground, infantrymen froze but never faltered. In the halls of command, strategy clashed with morality. Freedom was not free, but it was worth every breath. By 1945, the guns fell silent again. The world had been changed, and so had America. It stood not only as a victor, but as a guardian, a superpower born not of greed, but of duty and sacrifice. Chapter 3, The Cold War, Shadows and Stars, 1947 to 1991. The enemy no longer wore a uniform. The battlefield was not a field, but the planet itself. The Cold War began not with explosions, but with silence, suspicion, and spies. East versus West, capitalism against communism. Ideology became a weapon sharper than steel. From Berlin to Korea, from Vietnam to Cuba, America fought not wars of conquest, but wars of containment. At home, families feared the siren drills, children hid beneath school desks, and the sky, once a symbol of freedom, became a reminder of annihilation. Yet amid that fear, innovation thrived.
Across the ocean,
satellites pierced the heavens.
Dictators rose,
astronauts touched the stars.
And the world
and in that vast silence between Earth and infinity, America found a new frontier,
storms were brewing,
hope.
And though silent,
the Cold War was never just about power. It was about proving that freedom could outlast fear.
The storms were brewing.
Chapter 4,
and though silent,
The Modern Warrior, 1991 to 2025. When the Soviet Union fell, the world exhaled, briefly. But freedom's price is never paid in full. From the deserts of Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan, a new kind of soldier emerged, trained not only in warfare, but in resilience, restraint, and humanity. These were not wars of empire, but battles for ideals. Every patrol carried more than rifles, they carried responsibility. To rebuild what was broken, to protect the innocent, to stand as the thin line between chaos and order. They fought in shadows, served in silence, and returned home to battles unseen, the war within. Yet still, they stood. Because duty, once chosen, is forever. Epilogue, The Legacy of Duty, 2025 and beyond. For centuries have passed since dreamers stepped onto unknown shores. From wooden ships to stealth bombers, from muskets to drones, the tools have changed, but the heart of the soldier remains the same.
And prepared. The storms were brewing,
not built on
and though
power
silent,
alone.
they promised to roar
It was
louder
built
than
on
before.
sacrifice,
The
on
military
belief,
learned
on
from
the
the last
unshakable
war,
conviction that
refining
freedom,
tactics,
for all
testing
its
machines,
cost,
preparing
is
a
worth
generation
protecting.
of soldiers for
They
challenges
call
unseen.
it the line of duty.
Across the
But
oceans,
it is more
new
than a
threats
line.
emerged.
It is a legacy.
Dictators rose, alliances
And
shifted,
as long as one
and the world
soldier
teetered
stands
on
watch
the edge
beneath
of
the
a
flag, the
calm
story of
was
America
only a
continues.
pause. A new century demanded vigilance, and the next chapter of